this is the model touch-up assignment. We're going to make this model, if you look closely, we're going to change her into this. Change her eyes, eyelashes, and her lips. First thing that we're going to do, we're going to go to my D2L. Under Photoshop, we've got the model touch-up. Going to open it up there, and actually right there in model touch-up is all the information that you need to get this done. You're going to click My Google Photos. You're going to click those three dots, and you're going to click Download All. You're going to go back to Photoshop, which you've opened, and you're just going to file open. Instead of doing a new one, you're just going to open this particular one for this particular assignment. I've already got it opened, and there it is. And so there's my background layer. It's locked. I'm going to add another layer and give it a name. I'm going to call this one Eye Color. For this first eye, we're going to hit Command plus or Control plus in Windows to zoom in. And the closer you zoom, the better result you're going to get. For this first one, I'm going to use just the regular lasso and not the magnetic lasso. And so this, I'm just going to eyeball it. And so I get my magnetic lasso and I go around. I don't want the black portion. I just want the colored portion of her eyeball. And so I'm going around with the lasso tool, just doing the best that I can. I'm zoomed in, so it's probably going to be pretty good. But then I don't want that black part in the center. So I'm going to press this Alt button. And when you press Alt or Option, I'm struggling to get the right one because it's in Windows, because it's Option in the Mac environment. I'm going to press Alt, and then I'm going to reduce this. And so this will not be in the selection. So the black part won't be. And so that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for just the colored part. I'm then going to get a reasonable green. We want to change her eyes. All right, that looks pretty good, and we can see off to the left that that color palette is what we're going to do. And then we keep that selection. We go to the paint bucket, and we press, we paint it. I've got the opacity. I've got the tolerance up top there. Just pay close attention. I'm going to zoom out, and I just want to show you something with the selection here. If we go selection and save the selection, I'm going to save left eye, because you could spend hours getting the proper selection. And I click OK, and then I hit Command or Control D for deselect. Now let's say the next day I want to go back and use that selection. I can go to Select, Load Selection, and there it is. There's my selection loaded again. We can tell by the marching ants. That's what I call it. So I'm on that layer. I've made it green. She looks a little bit scary. So what we do is we change that opacity right around 20 to 25 so that we can see through it, and that's a nice green. And to be honest, I'm really happy with that, especially from this distance. When we turn that eyeball on and off, it looks really natural. And so that's exactly what I'm looking for when you do the change the model's eye color. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom into the other eye. Now, what I could do is I could add another layer, but you don't have to. And by accident, I've made everything green there, so I just hit Control Z, because I was on Paint Bucket and I clicked the main layer without a selection, so it made everything green. And so once again here, I'm going to make another selection tool. But this time, instead of using the regular lasso, I'm going to use the magnetic lasso. And you can see that it's looking for a change in the pixels. And where there's a little dot there, it means I've clicked. Sometimes I will help the computer say, hey, I know that you're doing a good selection, but this is where I want you to have one of the edges. And so this is the outside. Now I try to go inside and I've made a mistake. So I just press Enter. Now I made a mistake up top with, what did I change there? My feather. My feather of 10 pixels will not work out. And so I think I do this twice the wrong way with that heavy feather. And the feather means, 10 pixels to soften the look, to make it look more natural. But for something like this, we don't have 10 pixels. So one gives you a hard edge. So I'm going up there to feather. Let's change that to 2 pixels. Let's get rid of this selection. Hit Control D or Command D. And now I'm going to use my magnetic lasso, and I'm going to go through one more time. And you can see that I'm pressing more because I want it to be what I want it to be. And that's looking good. All right. It looks a little bit digital up top, but you know what? For what we're doing in here, that's going to be good. Once again, I'm going to press Option or Alt to get rid of that selection in the middle. So I've got selected just the color. I'm not going to change that green. I'm going to leave it the same green that I had before. And I'm going to go over to my paint bucket, and I'm going to paint just that. Now the other eye is still on there, but it's just not part of this particular selection. One of the differences between Photoshop Elements and the full Photoshop is the pen tool. The pen tool is a powerful tool, and we're going to use that to increase our model's eyelashes. So we go over to the left, we get the pen tool, and then we go to stroke path, and we want to make sure that it's a brush. Okay, there's a whole bunch of different things that you can simulate, but we want to go to brush. But before we do that, we go up and we go to brush, and we have to make sure that our brush is set to the proper size. So I've got it set to 3, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to see what happens if we made it too large. So we've made our brush large. We go back to the pen tool to specify a certain vector. We go to the pen tool, and now I click, and then I right-click on that particular blue thing. I go to brush, simulate pressure, and that's not at all what I'm looking for. So if that happens, you've made your brush size too large. So I'm going to go to 73. I'm going to go back to 3. And so now I'm going to go back to my pen tool. And if I click once and then click a second time and then right click on it, I go back to my stroke path, click OK for brush, and that's what happens here. I'm pressing and holding my second click, and I can bend it. And I want you to bend it so that it extends out like that. You press once and then a second time. If you press once and then twice and then right click over the blue, it goes straight. But generally we do not want our lashes to look like that. So I click once at the end, I press and hold my second one, I right click on the blue, I go to stroke path, brush, simulate pressure, and away I go. And I want you to do all kinds of these. Now it does look a little bit black right now. We're going to change the opacity when we're all done to blend this in nicely. So what I've done there is I did not press enter after I pressed simulate pressure. So I had to press escape to get out, and then I click once with my pen tool selected, press and hold on the second one to bend, stroke path, click OK when I've got my brush. I want you to do all kinds. So brush. You could actually just use the brush tool, but it won't bend like this. What we can do when we use the pen tool is we can stipulate really precisely exactly how we want it to make it to look. And anything that we do in Photoshop, it's critical that we make it look natural. So now we've gone through, we've done all kinds. I'm speeding it up here. Once again, I've made a mistake and I did not press enter. Stroke path, click OK, press enter. Once, twice, right click, stroke path. Okay, once again, I did not press enter afterwards. So you just got to make sure you do it, and if you make a mistake, you hit escape. You can hit Control Z if it drew that vector, so don't worry about that. You can always step backwards. And when you get going quick, sometimes you're going to make these mistakes. And honestly, I'm really happy with the way this is looking. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to click on that layer. I'm going to change the opacity to around 25%. And then I'm going to turn that layer on and off, hitting the eyeball to see if it's what I look like, if it's what I like. And I'm really happy with it. I'm now going to do the same thing on the other eye. It's important that we zoom in. We get more precision when we zoom in. You can do stuff when you're zoomed out, but it just won't be as precise. Once again, I'm putting this all on layer 1. It would have been better if I called this eyelash layer. It's always good when you label them properly. That way when you go back and you want to make changes, you don't have to just hit the eyeball to find out what you did. All right. Once, I press enter again. once, twice, and bend, right click, stroke path, click OK. What we're going to do now is we have to make sure that we're going to save it, and we save it as our Photoshop file, our PSD to begin with. Give it an appropriate name, click Save, but this is not what you're going to hand in. So, but you do have to save it as a PSD. Anything that you do, you always want to save it as a PSD. So Model Touch-Up, PSD, and then we're going to click Save. In addition, we're going to save it again. This time we're going to click where it says Photoshop, and we got to save it as a JPEG. This is the one you're going to hand in to me. And then we want to go maximum size, maximum quality, and click Save. If you wanted to do something extra, I want to show you how you could make her lips a little bit redder, although they are very red right now. First of all, we're going to zoom in. Obviously getting as close as I can. I'm going to use the lasso, magnetic lasso, and I'm going to go around the side. I missed some of the selection there, but whatever. Going around, I've made a mistake there. I'm going to come back and correct that. Using the magnetic lasso, but I'm clicking. Every one of those dots is also clicking. And sometimes I just let the computer do it, but I don't trust it sometimes. So I'm going to go to my regular lasso, and now I'm going to hit the Option key to get rid of part of the selection. I get a negative sign, although you can't see it on there. I make a little loop around what I don't want in the selection. Okay, that looks okay. I'm going to press Shift to increase the selection up at the top. I press Shift while the lasso's on, and it's going to add to my selection. Option reduces, Shift increases. This time I'm going to use the eyedropper to get the color I want, and I'm going to click right on the lip. And you can see in my color palette, it's changed it to the red. It's actually changed it to the red that is on that lip. Now, depending on where I put the eyedropper, it will be a different color, but that's good enough. I'm going to get my paint bucket after that, and I'm going to paint just that selection like I did with the eye. Obviously, that's too dark, and I'm going to change this opacity, I think between 20 and 25. To be honest, I like this, but her lips are so red that it probably wasn't necessary. But this is the kind of thing that we can do after the fact. Click the layer and we can see the difference. All right, let's go with 20. Try it again. And once again, I'm going to save it as a PSD. And I'm going to overwrite the PSD and the JPEG. And that's what I'm going to hand in. And that's the model touch-up assignment.